Next question is from James Ayers 95. What are your thoughts on maintaining strength during a cut?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, no.
It's a tough one.
That'd be awesome if you can do it.
Now, Adam, you're the only one that really did this in the extreme because you competed. Yeah. How big of a difference? Forget the 2 weeks right before a contest, because there's no way in hell you keep any strength in the death weeks. But let's just say pre-contest versus, kind of off-season. How much of a difference would you see in strength?
You lose quite a bit. Yeah. You do, because you're in a deficit for so long consistently. When you're cutting for the show, like I'm not talking about, pre-cut. Like the cut for the show is going to be anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks, depending on where your body fat percentage is. And pretty much after the first week of consistently being in a deficit, I would notice, my strength going on, which is also why, and we've talked about this on the show before, why I don't like to be trying to lift too heavy while I'm also cutting.
Messes with your head.
Yeah, so it would mess with me psychologically. If all of a sudden I'm running like a 5x5 routine, I'm 3 weeks into my prep, and I'm getting weaker every week, that can be really discouraging. And since my focus isn't about how strong I am going on the show, it's all about the way I look. I prefer to do, more hypertrophy type of training, supersets, giant sets.
Because you got to go lighter anyway.
Right.
Better psychologically.
It is.
I found the same thing. I'll much rather do some bodybuilder style hypertrophy training, just because then I'm not fixated on those same numbers, those same lifts, beforehand. It'd be a little bit depressing.
Now, that being said, there is value to lifting heavy in a cut. I actually talked about this in my story the other day, or on my live I did. Because somebody asked, well, why would you ever want to lift heavy on that? Well, if you're sending a signal to the body to build muscle, even though you're in a caloric deficit and you're probably not going to build a lot, the likelihood of you holding on to more muscle, I would think, is higher.
Totally.
So I think there is an advantage to lifting heavy as if you were trying to build or trying to go heavy, even though your body's probably not going to allow you to be hitting PRs when you're in 2-3 weeks of a deficit.
Totally, 100%. Now, of course, there are places where you will get stronger when you cut. Body weight exercises, but that's mainly because you're lighter, right? So
you'll find yourself, the weight ratio,
yeah, you'll find yourself with your strength to weight ratio get better. This is why performance sometimes goes up when strength goes down. So if, let's say, you're an athlete that agility is very important in your sport, and you notice your strength goes down a little bit in the gym, but you lost also lots of body fat, you may find that your agility improves because although you're not as strong with maximal strength, your strength to weight ratio is better now. So in some cases, you'll see better performance.
There's another scenario where you can actually get stronger in your lifts during a cut, and that's when you introduce a new movement.
That's a good point.
So this is another thing that I like to do. So if not only do I like to transition into more of a hypertrophy type of training block heading into my cut, I would also like to introduce something I hadn't done in forever. Like when Justin got us on the windmill kick for a while, I was on a Turkish get-up kick for a while. What a great time to introduce a movement you never do when you're also in this caloric deficit, because the skill acquisition over the course of the next 3 to 4 weeks, I'll improve on that. And a lot of times I can go up in weight. So I might have started the Turkish get-up and I can only do a 40-pound kettlebell or something. And even though I'm weaker because I'm calorie deprived, I get better at that lift, and I actually get to see that go up, which can be very encouraging.
Well, isn't it just in general, in terms of the most advantageous sort of strategy towards this is to shift into something that's a new stimulus,
totally,
right? To be able to preserve as much muscle and get it activated as much as possible.
Yeah, totally. By the way, beginners will see strength go up on a cut quite often. So what we're talking about are people who have some experience training.
Yes.
When I would get a new client, and we're starting to get them to get leaner, and we're seeing the scale move down, they would simultaneously almost always, especially when they're new, gain strength and even gain muscle. So we'd see 7-8 pound fat loss, 3-4 pound muscle gain. Now, if you're at the point where you're more advanced and you're already maximizing everything you're doing, you're into bulk and you're pushing muscle size and you're trying to build more muscle, and then you go on a cut and you've been doing this for a while, you're going to lose some strength. I mean, that's just the
the newbie claim that you're talking about, that's the evidence of why you should add a movement that you never do.
Yeah.
Because it's you're getting those kind of newbie gains. If you've never done a Turkish get up and you're doing it for the first time, in a sense, you are a newbie for that movement. And so you can reap some of those newbie type of benefits of, oh, wow, even though I'm in a cut, I'm getting stronger in this lift. And I think it's a psychological game that you're playing. It's not there's no like real reason why, oh, you should definitely do it this way or it's the best way. It's like there's lots of different ways you can do this. I've found in years of cutting and being in this game is that this helps me psychologically.
Yeah, I would say so. Here would be the tips, right? Choose new stimulus or new exercise. Keep protein intake high. Don't do too aggressive of a cut. The larger the deficit, the more likely you're going to experience strength loss.
Decrease, yeah.
Supplement with things like creatine. Creatine is calorie free, but will boost your strength. I think those are your best tips. If you do that, then you'll minimize some of that. But again, if you're advanced and you're cutting, especially once you start to get really lean, you have to accept that you're going to lose some strength. Just accept it, because if you're so fixated on, I can't lose any strength, but I'm trying to get lean, like it's going to be hard to do both.
How do you feel about like supplementing, with salt and getting electrolytes, with just in terms of like performance, if you are experiencing a decrease in strength, but now like introducing
that's also when I would run creatine.
Yeah.
So I used to actually not run creatine in a bulk, even though there's tremendous benefits to doing that. But again,
you would save it for the cut.
I would save it for the cut. So it was just giving me that little bit of an edge while I'm lifting. So the drop off of strength wasn't so dramatic. It also would hold water in my muscle belly so I wouldn't be as flat. So that was the other thing that I used to hate about when you're in a consistent caloric deficit, you never seem to fill the muscle bellies all the way up. So you never get
doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, you don't get that really full look that you're chasing all the time, because you're in a consistent caloric deficit. So I used to love to supplement with creatine at that time. I'd load the water up by creatine, I'd load the salt up, and so I would kind of again create this illusion. It was all a psychological.
And here's the other thing with the sodium. Let's say your cut consists of dropping your carbs. A lot of people like to drop carbs when they go on a cut because it's easier for them to maybe maintain their a lower appetite or whatever. When you do that, your body naturally loses water. You're going to need more sodium, okay? Because you will feel like crap. A lot of times, that keto flu that people go through is actually the fact that they need more sodium. Or you do a cut, you're avoiding heavily processed foods, you're eating a lot of whole natural foods. Well, now your sodium intake is low, especially if you sweat and you work out a lot. So supplementing with sodium makes a big difference. And I noticed this. I don't eat lots
I brought that up because I noticed it personally.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Absolutely.